Have you seen lately that the drug epidemic that our community is in is only growing? Have you seen lately that we are on track to beating last year's record-setting number of overdoses and overdose-related deaths? Have you seen lately that the drug-related crimes in the community is only increasing? I'm going to explain how treating the epidemic with Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous has everything to do with those figures. First, I'd like to explain who I am to make those claims. Drugs and alcohol never really started to affect me until I joined the Marine Corps when I was 18, where I drank more than some, less than others, but we drank a lot. Leaving the Marine Corps with no purpose in life is when drinking on a daily basis started to become a theme of mine. It didn't even take 6 months of being home until, in a drunken rage, I attempted suicide, cowardly putting my family's life at risk and the lives of several police officers that were there, their lives at risk as well. The suicide attempt ended with me being shot 6 times, deserving of every round that I took. From there, when I woke up in the hospital, I was put on every pain medication under the sun. And then once leaving the hospital with those prescriptions in my hand is when I went off to the races. Basically abusing the prescription, leading to more. For the next few years, the drug abuse amplified. I became a disgusting plague to my entire family, lying, stealing, whatever it took to get a fix of anything. I would go in and out of sobriety, in and out of jobs, still with no purpose in life. I continued to struggle with depression, anxiety, suicide, even when I found out I had a child on the way. Nothing ever changed until I finally forced myself to make the decision of what type of father I want to be. And I made the decision that day that my purpose in life from here on out was not just to be a father, but a damn good father. For the next year, I was dedicated to self-improvement. I cut out everything toxic in my life. I crawled through dirt and mud to build the foundation of what my life is today. My job for money when getting sober consisted of picking up human shit and used needles in the abandoned houses of downtown Baltimore. I had to fight just to see my daughter for an hour or two at the mall, which to this day is one of the hardest things I have ever had to do in my life. But I did all of that sober. My life today is exactly where I knew hard work, dedication, and willpower would take me. Today, I have a career where I get to dress up in a suit and tie. I have my own office. I have keys to an office. I never thought I'd be responsible enough again for being able to have my keys to something as big as that. Today, I have a career where I get to speak and comfort families that have to go through the incredibly difficult times of losing a loved one. I have gotten to speak to mothers that could have been in the exact same seat that my mother was, planning my funeral. That pays for not only me to have an excellent future, but my daughter as well. Most importantly, today, I am a damn good father. I went from struggling just to get visitation to having full custody of her, giving her the future that she deserves. Today, I am free of addiction. I am free of everything that comes with addiction. I'm free of depression, suicide, anxiety. No countless hours wasted in a church basement. Precious hours that I could have spent with my daughter. I want people to know all of the ways and reasons that Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous almost drug me down and is dragging people down today. How AA is the disease to any community that it infects. Reason 1. It is ran by incompetent, violent, immature hypocrites. Since I started speaking out about AA a year ago, I've been met with threats, disgusting comments that involve my daughter, and hatred. Big claims from a program that preaches spirituality, morality, and maturity. These same people that make these threats are leaders of these meetings here. They are sponsors. They are the same people responsible for making sure criminals are held accountable in their rooms. They are former and current PSAs, counselors at treatment centers like Ashley's, which is a treatment center I spent 3 months at, entirely based off AA and Father Martin's following. When asked, what does Ashley and its employees contribute to the community? Supporting a page and clothing line that promotes drug abuse and participating in the defamation of a former patient, all while disrespecting and degrading the United States Marine Corps while they're at it, wasn't my first guess. But these are the people responsible for getting people sober. These are the people there to help kids get over the resentments that keep them drug-bound. Reason 2, the sexual assaults, harassment, and mistreatment of its female members. All you have to do is look up sexual assaults in Alcoholics Anonymous, and you will find a massive amount of horror stories that women have faced walking into these rooms. Books, documentaries, articles, witness statements, all specifically on the mistreatment of women in AA and NA. I find it absolutely appalling when members make the comment, oh, well, bad things happen like this everywhere. Yeah, bad things like this do happen everywhere. But where else in the world do you mix women in a fragile state of mind, looking for acceptance, with sex-driven men who are also not in the right state of mind? Mixing these young women with actual sex offenders and pedophiles who are court-ordered into these rooms. It is so prominent in these rooms that they have made up slogans and terms like 13th stepping, which is older, more senior members taking advantage of and sleeping with the unsuspecting newcomer. What's even worse is that you have senior female members that welcome and allow this behavior by setting their new responsees up on dates with older, more senior members in the hopes that a man is what they need to get sober. You even have meetings here in Bel Air that allow men to sponsor women. As far as influential women in these rooms, is a porn star really the best we have to offer as a society to get these young women clean and sober? Mind you, that this is a program that when faced with the sexual assaults and harassment of its own members, it told the women to look for their part in the assault. Part 3. It is completely anti-intellectual. Understanding addiction and understanding how it affected my brain is what helped me to get sober. Nothing says intelligence like telling a kid with a heroin addiction that what they need is a good old-fashioned divine intervention and spiritual awakening. Members all the time will admit, yeah, it's the fellowship that's bad, not the program. Well, I say it is both, and I say this from its foundation up. They use God, as your own understanding, as an excuse to justify something that they're too incompetent to understand. For example, rather than trying to understand the steps and reasons that you were able to stay sober another day, they say, oh, you don't know what kept you sober another day? Well then, God did it. If you are faithful to your religion, this program is not for you. They will make a complete mockery of your religion. They're using these outdated, ignorant methods to getting people sober. The programs preach and harp on the fact that its members are powerless. I'll get into this powerless nonsense later, but this is simply untrue. They love to build up drugs and alcohol as if it's this unknown demon that's out to get you and your entire family. that you are just a victim of your disease, that relapse is part of the disease. You're not a victim. You're not oppressed. You're a drug addict. This isn't helping people. It's drugs. It's alcohol. And everything we know about it is here, in the real world. And for as long as you keep beating these people down with the powerless nonsense, you are just enabling them. Who in their right mind would say, the perfect way to get people to stop smoking would be to stick them in a room full of smokers and let them do nothing other than talk about smoking. All while people come in smelling like smoke, with cigarettes as they come into the rooms. People selling cigarettes outside in the parking lot. You're not helping these people, you are tempting them. What a great idea it is to court order kids to a program with no experience of hard drugs other than alcohol, into an environment with hardened drug addicts who do nothing other than talk about hard drugs. As AA itself says, you can't be too stupid to get the program, but you can be too smart. Reason 4. Adding drug addicts to communities already in an epidemic. In the past year, I have seen police officers and EMS personnel work selflessly and tirelessly to keep up with the drug epidemic here in the community. Police officers that put their lives on the line for addicts that could care less about anyone's life as long as they get their fix. EMS personnel that have no way of protecting themselves run into drug houses filled with drug addicts to save someone's life who's OD'd. All of this to no avail, just to see the overdoses increasing. But you know what? Let's demand more halfway houses be opened up here, just blocks away from Bel Air High School. Halfway houses like the Man House that produce members like this that would suggest my daughter use AA. Let's bring in more drug addicts from all across the country. Let's open up more treatment centers like Ashley's, where they also bring in more drug addicts from all across the country. On top of that, let's force them by court order into a program that gives them little to no chance of succeeding in. And then, when these kids have failed, hundreds of miles away from home, and are kicked to the curb of a drug-filled community, what do you think is going to happen? They are going to do what they know best, use and sell drugs. You're putting more families at risk of being hit by a drunk or doped-up driver in a community where the risk is already substantial. Reason 5. It is a cult. The very first step of this cult is to admit that you are powerless to it. To give up on all critical and rational thinking and just follow what the program tells you to. Like a cult, they don't particularly like their methods being questioned or scrutinized. Question their methods, and you will either be met with violent threats or they will treat you like an outcast in the program. They will teach you to abandon your family and even your children, for they are enablers too. That AA members are the only real family that you need. Even if you are agnostic, they refer you to Chapter 2 of the Big Book titled, We the Agnostic. An entire chapter dedicated to tell you to stop being agnostic. As far as a higher power for the agnostic, they tend to want you to gravitate towards power of the AA rooms. This cult teaches people to revolve their entire life around drugs and alcohol. That you are always powerless to your disease. It teaches you that you must now devote your entire life to this cult, for you will always be an addict. For the rest of your life, drugs and this cult will dictate your life. Places you can go, people you can associate with, and where you will be for an hour weekly, if not daily. For the rest of your life, you will have to make meetings just to stay sober. You will spend countless hours in a church basement worshiping drugs and then wonder why 2 years sober you're still having drug dreams. They don't like losing their members either. They use slogans like, "Oh, if you don't use AA, then you wind up a miserable dry drunk," labeling anyone who doesn't agree with their methods a mean, miserable person, knowing absolutely nothing about them. Rather than referring someone who has relapsed 5 to 6 times to another program, they tell the person, "Oh, keep coming back, it works if you work it." On top of that, make a complete mockery of other methods of recovery. Not only this, but this cult is backed by courts forcing people in it, with the threat of harsher sentencing for not making the meetings. It's enough to make Charles Manson jump up from the grave in joy. I make these videos and posts because I don't particularly like watching our youth kill themselves and others over a disgusting, petty habit. I make these because parents have no idea what they're getting their kids into when left in the hands of AA. In this video, I'm going to include a link to almost 20 other options to AA and NA. If you need help finding the locations, phone numbers, websites to any of these, please feel free to message me. Thank you.